For me, I've been involved with the principles for a long time. Back in the day when it was getting going. So I've seen a lot of different iterations, and of course they all have wonderful aspects. For me, the most unique thing about this course was the lack of hierarchy. And not that anybody ever intends to have a hierarchy, but in these spaces, sometimes it can feel like the facilitator has something that we don't have, and that they're, um, I don't know, holding on to it, or, or, or it's a magic ingredient that's, maybe someday we'll get there. Where the uniqueness of this course is they're really just always turning you inward, helping you understand that you have everything you need. And then I have mentioned this before, but absolutely the uniqueness kind of going along with that hierarchy, but just the lack of an agenda. So I not ever once felt like, okay, students, this is how to teach the principles. And a lot of 3 principles trainings that, what I'll say, I thought it was unique in its ability to balance the going deep and going for the feeling and discussing the practical. So sometimes you're in a situation where even if you don't feel a hierarchy, and even if you feel a great caring and you're going to these very, very, very deep places, you can wake up from the weekend and say, all right, yeah, I couldn't even begin to imagine how to even speak to another human about the experience I just had. And that can be a deeply and amazing, fulfilling experience. But of course, this was a facilitator's course. And so if it stopped there, that would be lacking something. But this course was able to allow you that space to go to those depths and find those new understandings for yourself, because that's what the 3 principles or innate evolution or whatever you might call it is really all it's ever about. It's just deepening your own understanding. So we had plenty of that, but then we were also able to really talk about practical, nuts and bolts things that, Facebook, it's like that conversation doesn't belong in a philosophical discussion, but really just getting down to the nuts and bolts of, okay, what might be a starting point for sharing this with someone else. And then that flexibility to really encourage us as a group to experiment and discover how we might share it, and really reassuring us that you can't go wrong. You're not going to mess up the 3 principles, that you go within, you go with your understanding, and you share with other people from your heart, and that's what you've got. That's the best you can do. And so I found that to be really unique, that it was able to stretch across that whole continuum. I know a lot of times you take a course and you talk about getting clarity, but for me, the real value of this course is that I really got clarity, but the kind of clarity that I could instantly convert to action. And so I have been able to develop relationships and collaborations and put that into action for my own business and my own facilitation practice. So the clarity that I received was specifically about gaining an understanding of exactly what I want to do at this time, and feeling okay that it might not change, and feeling okay that I don't have to have it all figured out. But having the confidence and a sense of clear direction enough to get going and to jump in and get something started right away. I think before the course, there was a lot more noise in my mind about what I should do, what I shouldn't do, and thinking there were answers out there, or knowledge that I needed to gain, or additional skills that I needed to gain. So I had a confidence in speaking and speaking to groups, but not necessarily the confidence to say, here I am, this is my business, and I'm offering something. because of that noise that, well, there's other people that are more expert or other people present in a different way. And throughout the course, I really developed a greater confidence to put out what I have, where I am now, knowing that it's in the moment, and like I said, that noise is just kind of quieted down. I don't find myself worrying so much or comparing so much, and in a greater flow of trust that it's okay. That I'll offer what I have to offer, and it'll reach who it reaches. But I don't have so much noise about, well, there's something else I need before I dare to offer something. I think one of the real strengths of the course is that it's so individualized, so it meets us where we are. So I had a bit more knowledge coming in about the actual how-to on the tech side, but I had a lot of mental blocks about the use of social media. So Rudi and Jules were able to work with me to see it as a tool to offer and meet my clients where they are. And then as soon as I got through those mental blocks or those limiting beliefs, I was able to get all that up and running. But I'm collaborating with some other people in the course that I know had, they didn't have the beliefs about social media. They were happy to use it, but just didn't even know the first place to start. And they've been getting a lot more technical assistance. So they were able to utilize their sessions to get that nitty gritty. And I even know some people are getting very specific support in getting a website set up in the first place. So that's something that surprised me about the course, the flexibility that it's allowed, because as I connect with people and they say, oh, well, here's what I worked on with Jules last week. And so, wow, that's totally different than what I worked on with Jules. But it does seem that there's been a wide range of, whether it's very specific technical support, here's the options you need to set up on your Facebook page, or whether it's, well, what is your bigger vision? What are you going to use Facebook for? Are you going to use it? So that's the range of support. This course came at the perfect time for me because I was in the process of honing in on what I wanted to launch. And before the course, I would say I was circling. I was getting the website set up. I was playing with language. But as I kind of mentioned before, I think I was still being a little bit influenced as to what I should be offering. And this course really helped me get clarity around what I want to offer as part of my business. And it certainly helped me just move forward. And that's definitely a big before and after, because I didn't come into the course at all thinking I would get support or build a network of other professionals to collaborate with. I actually had a pre-meeting with Rudi and Jules to discuss, well, how much are we going to be able to get out of it if it's online, and was pleasantly surprised. I think it's definitely a lot like other things in life, that it's what you put into it to some extent, but the course definitely created the conditions. And the way that they did that was the same way that you would do it in person. I mean, they allow for this space for a quiet to develop. For example, right now I'm collaborating with some other people that the only connection I had with them that caused me to reach out was a little look through the camera, that we didn't even speak, or a couple of chats back and forth. But there was just something in that interaction, just like it is in person. If someone's across the room and you just feel something, and it worked the exact same way. And then we set up our own little Zoom date, and now we're friends, or we're going to work together, or whatever the story is. But so that human to human connection is still available. So I think with all the technology we have available, and just the presence that Rudi and Jules bring to each meeting, certainly you can make connections if you open yourself to doing so. The biggest for me is not getting stuck in a cycle of beating myself up when I catch myself being human. I'm just off it so much quicker. if at all. I mean, now I'm so much quicker to gently laugh when I see myself all caught up in emotion, or see myself being defensive, or see my husband acting ridiculous, in my opinion. you know, and where before that I would have thought that needed a conversation, or I would have thought that meant there's a difference between us. When really, I honestly, it's lowered my judgment. And so we're always using our power of discernment to connect with who we resonate with, and to pursue the things we want to pursue. But realizing that a big change for me is, before there was a lot of personal judgment going on, and then therefore a lot of judgment of others, because you're comparing and you're trying to get somewhere. Whereas now I have a much greater capacity just to see that we're all just functioning. We're all just doing what humans do. And it's pleasant or it's not pleasant, but it's all okay, and it's not permanent. So there's just really no reason to get all caught up in it. Another one is really understanding that, what's the best way to say it? Kind of eliminating the dilemma I used to have between living in the moment and having goals. Maybe that sounds weird, but there was always this push and pull where I felt like if I had this list of goals and this daily schedule and I was working towards those, well, then I'm missing out on the moment. And if I just hang out and luxuriate in the moment, then I'm never going to accomplish anything. And before, it seemed like this push and pull. And a real personal gain for me throughout this course has been just the realization that you're just always holding both. That you can have the goal, and there's certain things you do because you're choosing to, because you're in this human experience, that move you towards those, but you want to be in the moment of each one of those steps. And so then it's really helped me discern what I put in my moments. And so rather just really being able to trust myself that if I have my eye on this larger goal in one hand, and have the presence of mind to remember that in reality all I have is this present moment, that each thing will just move forward naturally, and those progressions towards that goal get done, and I'm enjoying each of those moments that I'm spending towards that goal in a much richer way. So I've actually gained more time because I've let stuff go that wasn't really authentic to me. I just somewhere along the way thought I had to do it. Rudi and Jules as teachers. I mean, the first thing you have to say about them, that everybody that I've talked to personally in the course, we all agree there's an immediate sense of deep, deep caring, and you just never feel like they, either one of them, Rudi or Jules, as a teacher, has some agenda other than your own well-being and the deepening of your own personal understanding. And not quite sure how they do that. Of course, it's not a technique. It's just they just show up with this ever-present energy of deep caring, and it's something that you just feel in the moment. Can't really be explained until you're there, but they care for each other, they care for everyone that's in the session, and you can tell they care for beyond. And so the way that was so helpful in a facilitation course is they really helped each of us bring out that uniqueness of ourselves and that clarity within ourselves, because they weren't pushing any particular agenda or trying to tell us how we have to teach or that we need to be like them. You could kind of rest in that caring space that they create, and then feel their caring for the people beyond you that you might touch. And all of a sudden, for me, I got more motivated to expose myself and take risks and put myself out there because it felt safe. Another thing I would say about them as facilitators is with the team, if if people think, oh, well, that's going to be confusing to have two, they really work in tandem, and it really adds something to the training because they have very different styles. It's almost as if at the core they're the same, like it's the same foundation of that deep caring and understanding, as I've just discussed, but then the two buildings that arise from that same foundation are very different. And that's super useful also because those different styles of teaching reach us and impact us in different ways and expose us to a wide variety of ways that we can facilitate. And so they use, sometimes they're drawing. Rudi loves to draw on the whiteboard, and sometimes they're talking, and sometimes we're crying, and sometimes we're reading things. But to me, that it didn't seem, it wasn't busy with the two of them. It wasn't busy. They really have an interplay off of each other that keeps the flow of the training, and having the tag team actually contributed. I would really say it has to do with that connection, but it fosters a sense of belief in that what you have is enough.